So hello guys, welcome back to another episode of our podcast named Hackcast. Today we are going to record ninth episode with Imarn Parray, and we will be discussing many topics like privilege, escalation, and many more. Now, before starting the video, I would like to discuss few topics here as I always do here. So we are having few courses, as you all know, Bug Bounty Batch 10 and also the Advanced Bug Bounty courses, right? You all know the courses and what are there in what are the contents, right? Now, also we are having few boot camps. We have done 3 boot camps in our past. I hope you will see the poster here. Now, those were the boot camps that we have done in the past, and now we are going to launch another boot camp known as Business Logic Bugs, and we are only going to record Business Logic Bugs and their bypasses. So don't forget to check it out. Link is in the description, and also we'll be having automation boot camp soon. So stay tuned for it, and let's get into the video.
So, a quick introduction from my side. My name is Imarn Parray. Right now, I'm actually the founder of a company called Snapsec. Snapsec is basically an cybersecurity and penetration testing company where we actually help companies to do kind of an continuous security in their organizations. We help them to implement that cyclic process of finding and fixing issues, and help them with both the technical part, which is performing the assessments and finding issues, extra, as well as the management part, which is running a vulnerability management system platform within the organization, and then prioritizing the vulnerabilities, then lastly fixing those vulnerabilities. So I'm running like a continuous security a cyber security company right now. So my experience in terms of security, I have been into security from a really long time now, almost 8 years now. And during these 8 years, I have participated in hundreds of bug bounty programs, reported more than 2,000 security vulnerabilities to more than 50 companies online. So yeah, that's pretty much what do I do right now.
So here we are having the infamous Imran Parray, right? And also, we both of us know, right, that we are just trying to make this podcast from a very long time, and we are having time issues, right?
Yep.
We were having a lot of time issues. We were unable to manage it. I guess we are preparing for it from around more than a month, I guess.
Yes.
So finally, we are here now. I would like to start with if you have seen any of our podcasts, then I usually start with some questions like, how did you got into this field? A very basic, curious question. How did you got into this field?
From my side, as I told you, I have been into application security from a really long time. My story, it starts from 2015 when I read some of the hacking books. There was this guy in India called Ankit Fidai. I think he's either from India or from Pakistan. He has written a book called The Unrevealed Secrets of Hacking and Cracking. That was actually my first book that I've read. That was back in 2015. And after that, that book actually gave me that spark into hacking. And after reading that book, it became like a like a mind map of books. I read that book. It actually led me to another 2 books, and after that I read those 2 books, and I figured out some other books from those books. And I continue to read books about hacking, penetration testing, Kali Linux, and different other tools and techniques and hacking, until I came to know that there is something called bug bounties in 2017. So in 2017, actually, I actually tried my luck with bug bounties, and I was able to find my first bug in 2017. Yeah, I guess it was 2000, somewhere near about 2000 May 2017 when I found my first bug. So after that, I would say this was pretty much easy once I found my first bug. But this was generally the process. I started with reading books, and then after that, I actually went to different events and got to know different people within the industry. For example, Jason Haddax. I knew people
Mm-hmm.
from Twitter because I think infosec industry has a pretty good presence on Twitter.
Twitter, yeah.
Yeah, so that was generally the process. I wouldn't say I have done anything unusual during the process. It was pretty much the same thing everyone has done. It was either the books that that got me started, or the conferences, the events that I attended that helped me to get started into the industry.
So yeah, you can say that it was just because of curiosity started with some books, and now you have gotten this far using the 8 years, right?
Yes.
As I can see in the background, you are pretty fond of books, right? If I'm not wrong.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You are a big fan of books, I guess. I can see that in the background, maybe the shelves.
Yes, actually, I do read a lot of books. In fact, I have realized this, that in cybersecurity industry, not a lot of people actually read books. But when I got started back in 2015, as I told you, I
Mm-hmm.
literally read so many books that I had to keep track, like a Google sheet, that okay, these are the books that I have already read, and these are the books that I'm still going to read in this next year.
So
And yeah.
it was all about having a curiosity and having read a lot of books. So you have to make a mark sheet of it, right? That you have
Yeah.
completed this because those books are already having the same name
Yeah.
containing two words: web application or the hacking, right?
Mhm.
So anyway, would you like to suggest any book that the viewers should watch?
uh, to be honest, like at this point, I'm not into I'm not into books right now, especially the technical books. But the books that I do read are the books where for example, and I think these books can be really beneficial for someone who's actually getting started in bug bounties.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the books that really helped me is, there is a book about Linux called Linux Bible. I guess there's they have published the ninth version of that book recently. And there are books which are specific to web applications hacking. For example, there is this guy, his name is Peter. I think he has written a hacking 101, in which he tries to explain the HackerOne reports, and then tries to explain what happened in that report, and how did he got the reporter has actually found the bug, and he tries to explain the methodology and all that. So there are other books. For example, there is a book about hacking APIs, which is something Edge API. The name of the book is Edge API, I think. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that, but if you search Edge API on Amazon, you would be able to get that book. So yeah, I think these are some of the books that I would actually recommend it for someone who is actually new to hacking. But one thing that we really need to understand regarding books is that you wouldn't be able to understand the you wouldn't really get that sophisticated and advanced knowledge from the books. Books are all about learning the fundamentals.
Theory.
It exposes you to the fundamentals of the field. Then getting deep into any particular attack or particular subject in that field, you have to take different paths. For example, you have to read research papers, you have to read blog posts of other people, you have to in fact learn development, learn the development side of that particular, let's say, an attack or technique or anything. So books are only for those people who actually are, to be honest, new to the industry. And once you have that basic understanding of all the attacks and everything, in particular, I think I wouldn't recommend it reading books at that time.
Yeah, that's a great thing. And also, like, I have read some books like the Web Application Hacker Handbook, the infamous thing, right? When you get a beginner, you just have to read it, right?
So I started with that. That was a great thing. But in the end, I noticed few things that it's only about theory and fundamentals. You will not
Yep.
get the practical hands-on practices, and for that you have to go with the real life challenges.
Yep.
Um, I will say, what are the basic bugs, or if you're not going to the bug bounty directly for now, uh, how should the beginner start? If he wants to use books or whatever resources he should use according to you, and how should anyone get started into the field? The whole cybersecurity. I'm not talking about bug bounties or something particular. I'm talking about the whole cybersecurity.
Okay. So I think like I have given this advice, like, to be honest, like 1,000 times, and I'm going to repeat this in this podcast as well. So I believe that, hacking, and in fact, I have learned this from one of my friends. He actually told me this, and I firmly believe into this, that hacking isn't a separate field in computer science. Just like programming is a separate field, and networking is a separate field in computer science. Hacking isn't a separate field.
Mm-hmm.
It is the combination of all fields that actually make, I would say, a cyber security field. What do I really mean by that is, a person can be a programmer without knowing how computer networks work. A computer network, a network engineer can be a network engineer without even knowing how to write a single line of code. But
That's
to be
a
a
very
cybersecurity
that's a very
yeah,
deep thing, I guess.
yeah. So a cybersecurity engineer, or someone who's, let's say, hacking, or a hacker in generally, I would say, you cannot be a hacker without knowing how programming works. You cannot be a hacker without knowing how computer networks work. In fact, you cannot be a hacker without knowing these different fields into computer science. So the advice that I give to new people who actually come to this particular industry is actually learn to build things before you actually start hacking them. So people should really expose themselves to the fundamental concepts in every field of the industry. They should expose themselves to the basic concepts of
Yep.
networking, how internet works, for example, general questions, how internet works. Okay, internet works by different protocols are involved. Okay, how does these protocols work? Read the theory, then try to, let's say, okay, let's set up let's say, a TCP connection and try to send some data over and there. How does it particularly work? Similarly, in terms of web applications, people can ask, generally programming, people can ask themselves, okay, let's create a simple web application, and understand how internet works, how these web pages work, and how, for example, how browsers are able to understand and render this specific text and present as a really beautiful interface. So I think the answer to your question is that people should really spend a lot of time exposing themselves to the basic and the fundamental concepts of different fields of computer science, because once they are able to grasp everything from these but different fields, hacking hacking becomes really easy to learn. For example,
Definitely.
as let's take an example around this. For example, for someone who's actually learning cross-site scripting, and particularly, let's say, DOM based accesses, he can spend months and months without trying to understand how DOM based accesses work, and he would still get it wrong. But there is this other guy who can spend, let's say, 2 to 3 days understanding the JavaScript, understanding the concept of DOM inside browsers, and then try to spend, let's say, a couple hours on understanding how DOM based accesses works, and he will get it right within like he can minimize the time from 30 days to like 2 days. You can literally understand the concept in 2 hours if you really understand the JavaScript. So yeah, I think I wouldn't like to elaborate this too much. So this is the advice I would actually advise people to get into the basics, learn the basics of networking, learn the basics of web application, especially if you're into bug bounties. Learn web development specifically, build some projects using PHP, MySQL, Node.js, REST APIs, GraphQL APIs. Now, once you're hacking those things, you will have much clear understanding what you are doing. And in fact, if you're learning anything related to those, concepts, you would be able to grasp them within no time.
Absolutely. Like as you said, learning anything. Before learning anything, we have to understand the basics. Like if I want to clear a scenario, like you are trying to hack on WordPress, right? Or want to exploit any site which is based on WordPress, you can't. You will only know five things: the WordPress user JSON, user disclosure, admin panel. But the person who know how to develop a WordPress site can find hundreds of things. So that's a perfect example that can be of a, you need to learn basics of everything. Like uh, I guess you would agree, like if you want, if there is any new service, like suppose the Swagger thing, the recent one, the Swagger accesses, to understand and exploit that, everyone has learned how the Swagger works, right? So in that sort of cases, you need to understand multiple functionalities. As you was talking about GraphQL API, Jenkins, Jira, you have to understand all of them before exploiting or before trying hands on them, right? Because if you can't, if you don't know how to make something, you can't know how to break something. So that's a very
Exactly.
basic thing. Now the next question, if you are hunting on a program, suppose you're hunting on xyz.com, how would you approach the target?
Yep. So,
What would be the methodology or
yeah,
ideology before it?
yeah. So, if you have seen my Twitter profile, I'm the guy who
Absolutely.
with 90% of my issues being related to either privilege escalation or broken access control or like business logic
I
issues.
have
Like,
heard a lot about you when it comes to parameter pollution, I guess. Are you too
uh,
much into it? Or are you having a
no,
blog of it?
no, I haven't done anything parameter like related to parameter pollution, but I have found like if you look at my bug crowd or HackerOne profile, you would see that majority, like 70% of my issues are privilege escalation issues. So I have, in fact, written a blog on, in fact, given a talk on, attacking access control models in modern web applications last year at ThreadCon. That talk actually speaks about a really well organized way of testing access control models. Access control models are like role based system within modern applications,
Yes.
like a manager. And yeah, as I told you, the majority of the things that I found, like 90% of the bugs are related to either privilege escalation or related to business logic issues or broken access control issues. And all of these issues actually require you to have a really good understanding of system before starting like attacking the web application. So the first thing that I actually do whenever I target anything on the internet is actually try to understand how it works. And this can be achieved by reading the documentation, or one of the basic things that I always do whenever I hack on new program is actually go to the YouTube channel and try to see those really good explainer videos. Okay, this is the system and this is how it works, this is the problem we are trying to solve. And Once you have that clear understanding of, there are actually 5 steps involved. The first step is actually understanding the business purpose of the application. So you'll understand how, okay, what is the problem they are trying to solve.
Absolutely.
The second step is, okay, now you have the understanding, okay, these people are solving this particular problem. Now how are they doing this technically? Okay, they have created this particular application to solve this problem, but what are the features, how are they solving this technically? Are they using any API technologies? Okay, they have this particular front end, it is sending data to this particular API. So you have this technical understanding of their web application. Then the third step is actually start creating test cases. Okay, they have built this feature, what can go wrong in this? They have this particular webhook feature. Webhooks can go, let's say, you can try to do SSRF here, or are they handling any edge cases on this particular feature? And you try to create those test cases from both the perspective, from the technical perspective, like an SSRF, or some of the bugs, these are the technical bugs that can found, as well as the business perspective. Okay, this is the business this is the logical workflow of this particular feature. Let me try to kind of an alter that and see what can go wrong. So an example can be, for example, let's say, are you aware of Google Forms
Yep.
as an application? Yeah. So you can definitely try, let's say, cross-site scripting, SQL injection on the Google Forms fields. But a logical perspective of attacking the app would be, okay, can I submit a form? Can I submit a response to a form? When
Already
admin has
submitted.
actually, yeah, already submitted, or when admin has actually closed the
Closed it.
form, or what happens when an admin deletes the form, and I'll still submit a response through an API and see what happens. Or let me try to see if there is any question and you have a range of choosing 1 to 5. Let me see if I choose 6 through an API or an HTTP request, what happens. Or these things which are very specific to the logic of that particular application. That's what I mean by business logic issues. So once I have that assumptions regarding the application, I will actually start executing those assumptions. Okay, let's try to send, they are already only providing 5 options here. Let me try to send number 6 and see what happens. Or let me actually try to create a pool and provide only 2 options, and then set the third answer into the response and see what happens. That's actually the fourth step, which is actually executing the assumptions. And as soon as you see something abnormal within the application, then you have the next step to escalate it to a security vulnerability. Because after executing your assumption, you will either directly it will either directly lead you to a security vulnerability, or a very abnormal behavior which will not be a security vulnerability. Then the last step is actually you take that abnormal behavior and you try to see, okay, I have this particular abnormal behavior. How am I going to turn this into a security vulnerability? Then after that, once you have that particular impact within that application, you can go ahead and report that vulnerability. So I would say my process is like a 5-step process.
That was a very practical approach that you have told here, right? That was a really in-depth guide that I would like to hear, and one of the best. Till we have done multiple podcasts, this is one of the best approach that I got here. There is a one
Really
more
appreciate
thing.
the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. As you were saying about business logic, yesterday, absolutely yesterday, I was making a course on business logic. There was some multiple recorded courses available. I will send you the link. It would be great if you review them. But yeah, I am making a course on business logic, and from the last 3 to 6 months, I'm completely focusing on that business logic. And definitely, there is nothing that an automation can do when it comes to business logic. There is nothing that beginning stage, or you can say, a person who is not consistent can't do there. It's about
Yes.
functionality, and the people who are just taking targets for hours, like the 6 hour target, it's not gonna happen like that. At least we need to spend 3 days, I guess, on a
Yep.
particular target. And as you were saying, your favorite bug is usually the privilege escalation. So can you guide, or are you having any tips and tricks for it, or how can you find privilege escalation?
Yep. So privilege escalation is actually if we talk about the definition of this bug class. So privilege escalation means whenever you have a user who has limited permission within the context of the web application, you actually break that context and escalate your privilege to a higher part of the higher functionalities within the application. So you provoke something, or you execute something, a particular API endpoint, a particular functionality within the application that you shouldn't have access to. So obviously the first step in finding the privilege escalations is actually to understand the access control model within the application, to find those particular scenarios where you can put yourself as an attacker into a low privileged mode. So you have to find a way in an application to find those functionalities, find those scenarios, find those features where you will be restricted in some sense. And after that, the easiest way to do is actually look for those API endpoints and particular functionalities that would actually allow you to do that specific task, and break that particular context, and escalate your privileges. And one of the things that I would actually love to talk about here is that whenever people talk about privilege escalations, they think about that there is going to be an API endpoint, API endpoint or particular interface within web application that a user will not be allowed to execute or access. And privilege escalation directly means that you somehow access that particular endpoint, and by sending an HTTP request directly from an burp or something, and you performing that operation as an attacker. But sometimes privilege escalations can happen in a different manner. It doesn't necessarily mean, for example, let's say you are not allowed to access users within the organization, and there is an API endpoint / API / users. People think that privilege escalation means if I was not allowed to get user information, I'll go ahead and open burp suite and try /API /users, and I will be able to access that particular user information. That is definitely an privilege escalation. But there are other privilege escalations that exist in a different manner. If you are able to perform this action indirectly through different functionalities, or if you are able to perform these restricted operations not directly through the particular functionality, but through a different API endpoint, or try to achieve it completely differently, that also indicates a privilege escalation. And one of the examples I would actually love to give here is, if you know a product called Jira, sorry, Confluence is a product. Yeah. So in Jira, in Confluence, you can actually go ahead and create. There is a permission for creating pages, so you can go ahead and create a page, but you can also restrict users from creating pages. So if a user at that time were able to create pages without having that particular permission by provoking and let's say an API endpoint, it was an indication that and privilege escalation exists in the system. But there is another approach to try privilege escalation in this manner, because Jira also has an feature called automation, which actually allows you to create any kind of automation within your organization, then have an hook, kind of an hook, when that automation actually executes within your organization. So you can go ahead and create an automation, and in that automation specify that whenever I particularly execute this automation, a new page should new page should be created within our organization. So now without having access to that particular without having create page permission, you can go ahead and provoke this particular automation to create a page inside your organization. So this is like an indirect way of doing privilege escalations. So in my opinion, when people actually look for privilege escalations, they shouldn't just look for API endpoints or particular functionalities and try the direct approach, which is sending requests through burp. Rather, spend a lot of time understanding application. And sometimes you will have definitely you will see scenarios where you will be able to do privilege escalation, but through an indirect approach, you provoking a different functionality within your within that application to bypass that particular permission.
Yep.
So so that's I think two different things about privilege escalations.
If you're talking about escalations, then I would like to add something. Escalation is not something that is only done on few parameters or few functionalities. Escalation is like SSRF. You can try it everywhere. You just have to open your eyes perfectly, right? Escalation can be done everywhere if you just take a look at here. Like usually everywhere you will have permissions, you will have restrictions, right? If you can bypass it, there is no need that it is not compulsory that you need a two sort of accounts, admin and user. There can be only user account, but you can do particular things. There was a book. Imran, if you know about the book, there is a thing in that book. There is a thing. You create an email, you get an account, and there is no sort of verification. No OTP, no email link, and no sort of verification. But in that book, there is a guide that If the domain name or if the website name is @xyz.com, then try to create an account as admin @xyz.com. You might get into some special permissions, right? So it's about
Yep.
that you just have to make your own approach. It's not
Mhm.
about that when privilege escalation is only done on the calendar website. It can be done on multiple places if I'm not wrong.
Mhm. 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 Yep, that's right.
Yeah, definitely. Hi Dev, I
Uh,
forgot to ask. What can you tell something about Snapsec?
yeah, so Snapsec, basically, as I told, Snapsec is basically a cybersecurity and penetration testing company. We have been into the market from almost 3 years now, and we are specifically right now active in Saudi market. We have been actually working with some of the really good companies in Saudi Arabia. In fact, some of the government agencies as well, because of our persistent presence in Saudi market. So as I told before, Snapsec is basically a continuous security company, where we actually help companies to actually take their security budget and distribute it throughout. Create a really small assessments throughout the year, rather than actually companies executing 2 or 3 or 4 big security assessments throughout the year. We actually help them to create really small but continuous security assessments throughout the year, in the same budget. We don't ask them for any extra money. So and then we execute those small assessments continuously, let's say after every 15 days or after every 2 months or after every month, and find security vulnerabilities and report those security weaknesses through a vulnerability management system that Snapsec has recently launched. We in fact have a vulnerability management system of our own, where we actually, which is exclusive for our clients, which actually helps us to take that burden of maintaining security reports every month from from our clients. So yeah, I would say Snapsec has been really helping, maximizing, helping our clients and maximizing their value of their security budget, because we believe that security, any kind of security operation that happens within organizations should be continuous in nature, and it should be continuously executed. Otherwise, if you are doing an assessment, cybersecurity assessment in January, and you are doing another assessment in December, and you are leaving your application for like alone leaving your application for like
There might be
11
hundred
months.
of plugins expired, right? In that scenario.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. I think it's a waste of money for people. So that's why actually we take the same budget. We don't ask for any extra money from our clients. Take the same budget, distribute it throughout the year, and execute those small assessments, and help them to create that cyclic process of finding and fixing security vulnerabilities within the organizations. So I think that's what we do at Snapsec.
Yeah, I guess I understand your point. Like I'm having a website of mine, as I told you in the starting. Uh, it's hard to manage when it comes to security, right? You can't just manage it twice a year. You have to
Yep.
maintain it around, every month, twice a month, I guess. You have to
Mm.
understand what's going on, how it's working, and what plugin is demonstrated now, man. That's a little bit of hard thing, but yeah, that's a great service that you are providing, right?
Yep.
So that's an amazing thing.
Yeah, and second thing, what happens in terms of these really big applications that we have been active in security industry, and weaknesses, these security vulnerabilities, CVEs, and new attack vectors, they are released like every month, new attack vectors, new CVEs. So if an organization is performing an assessment in, let's say, December, and having a gap of 4 months, it is gonna, like, it's 100% evident that they will be vulnerable to different attacks during the span of these 4 months, because a lot of new things will be, like, new CVs will come,
If
new attack vectors will come, the tech stack, the programming language, the libraries, if we dive deep, the at the code level, the dependencies that they will have within their systems will definitely be vulnerable. So there is no other way to do security without making it continuous within the organizations.
Definitely, like if you just go for a holiday of a month, and when you come back, you will just see like, oh man, there is a lot of things that you have missed. Then it's a company. In an individual basis, if there is a lot of differences, then on the corporate or a business basis, there would be a very big difference, right?
Mhm, mhm.
One thing that I would like to ask, what's the difference between working on behalf of a company and working as a bug hunter? Is there a big difference
Yep,
in a
there
hunting
is
process
actually
here?
yeah, there is
I
actually
think
a really interesting question, to be honest. And
I understand, man.
yeah, so there is actually like pretty, like I would say, huge and like really huge difference in working as a bug bounty hunter and working with companies, specifically as a like I'm working as an like another company with companies. So we are a cybersecurity company, and sometimes we will be working with SaaS companies or different other different companies. But it's a complete different story in working in a job. So I'm not in bug bounties what happens, I think you are like 99% of your energy goes into finding bugs. And people doesn't really care about the professional side, the documentation side, the all the I would say in general, if I had to use one term, people doesn't really care about the management side of the process. You are not responsible for managing anything. For example, as long as you have found a bug on, let's say you'll report it on HackerOne, you have done 99% of your work. All you have to do now is actually
Report it
wait
and
for
wait for the bounty.
wait for the bounty and find the next vulnerability. But while as if you look at the whole vulnerability management process, there's actually a lot of things happening after you report a vulnerability. For example, vulnerability reports are prioritized. Then collaboration between different teams happen within the companies. And then they often do consultation with the security team. For example, if it's an bug in particular application, the team handling that particular application will go to security managers, or if they have a third party vendor, hey, can you help us with that particular bug, to understand the impact or anything related to that specific vulnerability. Then after that, they have to kind of do distribution of the reports. They have to take the report, give it to the particular team. uh, a lot of things actually happen. Generally, if I have to summarize this: collaboration, consultation, prioritization, distribution, and then reporting. People who are handling these bug bounty programs, when they keep track of these vulnerabilities, after a short span of time, they have to compile a report and send it to the higher authorities like the CTOs, CFOs, or stakeholders within that company, to actually give them an really good overview of what's happening in terms of our security operations.
Yep.
So I would say people working in bug bounties and working as bug bounty hunters actually don't get exposed to this particular side of offensive security. They don't get exposed to the management side of vulnerability management. While as when you are working as a security vendor, or while as if you are working as a penetration tester within the company, you will have to take part. You will have to participate in the management side of the security as well. You have to do prioritization of the vulnerabilities. You have to work on the documentation. You have to have meetings with different teams inside the company. And I think that somehow actually that's the reason actually we have been looking. And we have really good people in bug bounties, but we have seen a lot of unprofessional, I would say, cases in bug bounties as well. And I think that's the reason, like, people don't really see that there is actually a lot of other things happening on the other side of the screen.
I have seen
So
some of the crazy reports that you can't even forget. There was a report. In that report, the person has said in the SSTI POC that I can use your website as a calculator. Really, man, calculator? That's a freaking SSTI. You can use my
yeah,
website as calculator. Damn, man.
yeah. And I think one of the things that I would actually advise to new bug bounty hunters, because I think this podcast, like this is especially for the people who are trying to get into cybersecurity. So one of the things that I would always encourage, whether in bug bounty or in penetration tests that happen within our organization, is actually open communication. Always try to have a really good communication, technical and open, both the things. Just don't be afraid to say things, while having in communication with the with your, let's say, a security team, or in the company that you are providing security to. And the second thing is actually be very technical in terms of your, like, communication. Keep it continuous, keep it open, and keep it technical. But we have seen this often in bug bounties, that people often complain that they have got less bounties, or they are unhappy with the resolution, but they don't bother to actually create a, let's say, a block, or send a message to a program owner and ask them, hey, I
They are
think
even
that this.
afraid of sending a request remediation or hacker on remediation request, right?
I'm sorry.
The mediation request.
Yes. Remediation requesters are directly contacting the program owner on HackerOne,
Yeah.
writing and reply to him, and providing your really, like, in-depth explanation. Why do you think this vulnerability should be high, while as they give you the medium, and give him the explanation. Take the CVSS score rating and explain the CVSS vector string. Okay, I believe the integrity should be high. I believe the availability should be high. And why do you believe so? Provide the explanation, and do not settle with anything until you are either satisfied with what they have given you, or they are satisfied with what you want from them. So I think there is a lack of communication in bug bounty industry as of now, because I think companies are either not pushing it because they want HackerOne and Bugcrowd. I'm specifically talking about them. They want the bug reports to come to conclusions as soon as possible. That's why they don't want people to spend a lot of time on those reports. But I would like, I have got, like, there, in my case, I have hundreds and hundreds of cases from my bug bounty reports, where I was given, let's say, medium severity on a particular report. Then after having a conversation, uh, I was actually, it was moved to, like, P2 or high severity. I would say the key is the communication.
The mediation is being a very good thing for me recently. There's a program. I reported 7 RCs on it and 3 command injections. Like from the last 3 months, I'm not reporting any P2. I'm only reporting P1. So I'm just trying for it. Reported, and all the bugs were marked as informative. All the bugs, including RCs, log4j, shell scripts, then the command injection. I was even able to type the command cat etc password. I will get that, and boom, they are marking it as, what, informative. They say we know it's a vulnerability. Man, that, come on, that's not a response. And finally, it's on the trials now, so that's a cool thing. But obviously, just be brave enough to raise your voice in the mediation request. The worst thing that can happen is just your mediation request will get closed. What's
Yep.
the worst will happen? By the way,
Yeah.
what platform do you use the most?
I am uh, I'm actually on the both the platforms.
Hacker guy or bug crowd guy, or
To be
both?
honest, like, I'm not into bug bounties right now. It has been
Mm-hmm.
almost like a 1.5 year. I haven't done a lot of bug bounties, but generally like, I spend, like, to be little to no time on bug bounties right now, because because of the business, the pen testing thing. We are actually moving our company from a service based company to a product based right now. So we are actually, a lot of development is happening. We are building our vulnerability management system. We are building attack surface management system and email security suite within our organization. So I'm actually, like, 90% of my time goes within those things. But I do hack on things, on these companies on weekends, sometimes on weekends. And I usually spend my time on Bugcrowd. And the reason I spend my time on Bugcrowd is because the way I hack is I actually choose a program and I will stick to it for years and years, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 1 year, and I think it's really easy for me to spend time on one program than actually receiving a lot of invites, then jumping from one program to another. Because the reason this is really easy, because I believe when you spend time on a particular program, understanding it, reading the documentation, watching the videos, understanding the structure and the patterns, of an API or whatever technologies they are using, it is a whole lot of investment, and
Mm.
people shouldn't waste this particular investment by just skipping the program and going to another program. So when I understand a particular application, I understand it so well that I spend, and that this is a reason. This is a reason I actually, whatever companies I have hacked till now, I have never, like, there are rarely companies, where I have reported. I have companies where I have reported more than 100 vulnerabilities. I have companies where, yeah, in fact, for example, we recently hacked a company called Jira Confluence. We have 87 vulnerability reports on that. I hacked Typeform, a company, 110 vulnerabilities on that. We hacked Loxio, 37 vulnerabilities on that. So generally, this indicates that whenever I spend time, I spend, I actually hack that particular program from a really long time. And over the years, I have some programs on Bugcrowd that I have been hacking from like 2 3 years now. And whenever I get some time, I actually go back to those programs and hack on those programs. So Bugcrowd is definitely my favorite bug bounty platform right now.
That's a great thing. I also got the Buckout t-shirt email, by the way. I'm not a big fan of Buckout, but yes, sometimes I spend time on it, but usually I'm a hacker one guy.
Okay. Yeah, hackathon is great, but I don't like the way they actually, the remediation process on hackathon is actually somehow, I
Mm-hmm.
would say, more loose than the background. Because generally, whenever I get like an problem, or I would say, uh, let's say, if I disagree with the severity or the conclusion on the report, uh, I think
They are being too
uh,
strict in the simple word. They are being too strict on some sort of things, I guess, in multiple
yeah,
manners.
I don't have anything specific, but I think I have felt this from like a from the span of these 2 3 4 years, being on Bugcrowd and being on Hackathon. I think Bugcrowd actually is really good at providing support in terms of researchers. So there are platforms in bug bounties who are research like who are good for researchers, and they help the researchers and they want them to grow. But there are other companies who actually are really oriented towards the companies. They look and to be honest, like, this isn't something that I would say. This is just an opinion from my side, but I think Bugcrowd is doing a really good job in terms of providing support and remedying all the issues that researchers are facing, right, like generally in bug bounty when doing bug bounties.
That's a little bit of a focus point, if I would say. So
Yep.
that was the basic topics of the podcast. Would you like to mention five conclusions from the podcast? 5 points.
uh 5 points. So yeah, the first thing that the first thing that is going to be, for example, for someone who is actually getting started in bug bounties, is actually focusing on learning the development and exposing himself to the basic and fundamental concepts before jumping into the hacking part or the exploitation part. And this even applies to the general concepts as well. For example, right now, if I want to hack, if I want to understand any new attack vector, the first thing that I'm going to do is actually go ahead and create a simple web app or create a simple script that actually gives me a developer perspective of that particular attack. Then after that, once I have a clear understanding of what does a vulnerable system look like, I would be I would go ahead and start exploiting that particular vulnerability. So the second thing would be your I would say methodology. uh, build your methodology on I would say uh, on the basis of having a clear understanding of the program. Focus and add steps to your methodology that clears your understanding of a particular program. Do not include a lot of tools, a lot of scripts, a lot of things in your methodology. Keep it as clean as possible, but focus on the psychological perspective, focus on the mental perspective of your methodology. How do I understand the program? Is it by reading their blog posts or reading their API documentation? So I think uh, uh, it's more about having that manual approach rather than, because when people actually talk about methodologies, I think it's more often related to the tools and scripts rather than the mental that that kind of a mental perspective of that approach. And the third thing would be definitely people who are new to bug bounties should definitely give some time to
Basic.
reading some of the books. For example, hacking APIs, web hackers handbook, as you mentioned. And there is this book from Peter, his name is Peter, he has written hacking 101, some of the books. And people should actually spend reading books, because it actually exposes you to a lot of fundamental concepts which you wouldn't actually understand from reading a 3 paragraph or 4 paragraph blog post. So these are three things. The fourth thing will be actually taking time and exposing yourself to the management side of the vulnerabilities, because at some time, I guess everyone who is working in bug bounties right now would love to get into a job, would love to get settled with any particular company, or in fact start his own cybersecurity company. So just building the technical side of this particular industry isn't gonna help. In fact, I would say if I'm gonna hire, if I have to hire somebody in my company as a penetration tester right now, I would prefer a guy who is good at management and have less technical knowledge than a guy who is really good at the technical stuff but have zero management skills. So I would appreciate if people would actually, the newcomers would actually start exposing themselves to the vulnerability management process, which includes learning the prioritization, which includes learning how to collaborate with others, how to deliver that information from within your vulnerability reports, and how to handle situations when vulnerability reports needs to be explained further to the companies, or getting into a meeting and then helping companies to remedy with any vulnerability, with any issues in terms of the reports that you are sending. And the fifth thing is actually it's actually having an open communication in terms of bug bounties or any other if you are having a pen test engagement. Don't be afraid to say things. Don't be afraid to disagree. In fact, continue. You can have a really long conversations on bug bounty reports with these program owners, uh, and still don't come to conclusion. You can still disagree with them. But the thing is that people should generally have this kind of a mindset where wherever they have this particular conflict, where let's say they don't disagree with the severity, the CVSS rating, or they don't they generally disagree with the conclusion of the report, they should go ahead and open a communication, a discussion, even if it takes like 3 months to get resolved. Just don't care about the timeline. Just start and have your conversation and see whether they agree with you or not. So I think these are the 5 steps that 5 things that we can take from this podcast.
Amazing one. So we are at the end of our podcast. If you wanna quote something, you can quote. Wanna add something in the end for the viewers, the students, whatever.
No, I think the last thing that I would say, generally, if since majority of the people listening to this podcast are newcomers, the one thing that I would like to say is actually the easiest way to learn hacking things is actually by building them. So people should really spend a lot of time building things, build web apps, build
Absolutely.
APIs. Build GraphQL APIs, build REST APIs, build Android apps. Once you have that understanding how these systems work, it would actually take you less time to actually understand how these different hacking techniques and methodologies and tools work. So that will be my final advice.
So that was for today's guys. Thanks for watching and see you guys in the next video. And all the resources we have discussed will be mentioned in the description. I will also mention Snapsec and his Insta profile and all the profiles in the description. So make sure to check it. See you guys in the next video.
That was for today's video. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to check out the links in the description. See you soon in the next video.